Most people think looking rich is a shortcut to becoming rich. A nicer car, a sharper watch, a better table at dinner, a wardrobe that whispers success before you even say a word. On the surface it feels logical. Status attracts attention. Attention creates opportunity. Opportunity should lead to money. But that is not how financial strength is built. In reality, the obsession with looking rich often does the exact opposite. It weakens your position, distorts your priorities, and slowly turns your money into theater. The tragedy is that it rarely feels like self-sabotage in the moment. It feels like progress. It feels like reward. It feels like proof that you are finally moving up. But many people are not moving up at all. They're just decorating the cage. The dangerous part is not luxury itself. Luxury is not the villain. Beautiful objects, refined spaces, quality experiences, these are not moral failures. The problem begins when appearance comes before structure. When the signal becomes more important than the system. When you start spending to communicate value instead of building value. That is the moment weakness enters the room dressed like success. Because real wealth is not what people see in a passing glance. Real wealth is what continues to protect you when no one is looking. It is what gives you options, time, leverage, negotiating power, emotional calm. Looking rich can impress strangers for 7 seconds. Being financially strong can change the next 30 years of your life. You can see this pattern everywhere. Someone gets their first real income jump and immediately upgrades everything around them. New apartment, new wardrobe, better phone, better restaurants, better vacations, maybe even a car that announces, "Finally, I have arrived." And for a moment, that feeling is intoxicating. The world responds differently to polish. People notice. Friends comment. Social media rewards the image. Even your own reflection starts to confirm a new identity. But beneath that polished surface, something fragile is happening. Your fixed costs rise. Your expectations rise. Your emotional dependence on image rises. And suddenly, the money that could have gone toward assets, cash reserves, debt reduction, skills, or ownership is now working full-time to protect an illusion. That is one of the quietest financial traps in modern life. You do not need to be irresponsible to fall into it. You do not need to be reckless. You just need to confuse visibility with progress. And society makes that confusion incredibly easy. Because visible upgrades are legible. People understand them instantly. A luxury bag is easy to recognize. A well-cut blazer, a high-end watch, a premium car, a beautiful penthouse view, these are social signals with immediate emotional impact. But nobody compliments your net worth in real time. Nobody sees your emergency fund at dinner. Nobody applauds your low debt-to-income ratio. Nobody leans in because you own equity. Structural strength is often invisible, and because it is invisible, immature people underestimate it. This is why many financially weak people look impressive for a while. And many financially strong people look almost boring in comparison. One person is paying to be perceived as established. The other is quietly becoming difficult to control. One is optimizing for admiration. The other is optimizing for freedom. And those are not the same game. The admiration game is expensive. It requires maintenance. It needs constant updates, constant proof, constant visual reinforcement. Freedom, on the other hand, is cumulative. It grows from decisions that often look unimpressive at first. Lower burn, better allocation, higher ownership, more patience, better leverage, more control over time. It does not sparkle in public, but it compounds in private. If you want to understand why looking rich keeps you financially weak, start here. Appearance-based spending usually prioritizes emotional return over strategic return. It is not always about the object itself. It is about what the object allows you to feel for a few moments. More important, more worthy, more successful, more visible, more protected from the fear that maybe you are still behind. And that is exactly why this spending can become addictive. Because it is not solving a financial problem. It is soothing an identity problem. You are not buying the watch. You are buying temporary relief from uncertainty. You are not upgrading the car. You are upgrading the story you tell yourself when you park it. But money has memory. That is what people forget. A purchase does not disappear when the excitement fades. Its consequences remain. The monthly payment remains. The opportunity cost remains. The lower liquidity remains. The pressure to maintain the image remains. The quiet anxiety of having to keep earning at a certain pace remains. This is where financial weakness becomes psychological weakness as well. Because when your lifestyle is built on signaling, your nervous system becomes dependent on cash flow. You cannot slow down. You cannot pivot easily. You cannot take strategic risks. You cannot say no with confidence. Every polished surface around you begins to demand obedience. Real power begins when you can say no. No to bad deals. No to desperate work. No to manipulative people. No to environments that drain you. No to opportunities that look shiny but weaken your position. That power does not come from looking rich. It comes from margin. Margin in your finances. Margin in your schedule. Margin in your mind. But if your money is constantly tied up in appearance, margin disappears. You are left with a high-maintenance life and a low-control future, which is a surprisingly common combination. It looks luxurious from the outside, but internally it feels like constant negotiation with your own expenses. There is also a brutal truth about status that most people do not want to hear. The people you are trying to impress are often worse at reading wealth than you think. Average people confuse spending with strength all the time. They see visible consumption and assume success. But people with real experience around money tend to notice something else. They notice how you move, how calm you are, how desperate you are not, how selective your choices seem, how little you need to prove. They notice if your sophistication looks natural or borrowed. They notice if your lifestyle feels owned or financed. In higher-level rooms, performance is easier to detect than most people realize. This is why trying too hard to look rich can even damage your social positioning in the long term. It attracts the wrong audience and repels the right one. It attracts people who respond to symbols without understanding substance. It can pull in validation seekers, opportunists, and shallow admiration. Meanwhile, the people building real companies, real assets, real influence often become suspicious of over-signaling. Because over-signaling suggests insecurity. It suggests dependence on perception. It suggests that the outer layer is doing too much work. Quiet confidence reads differently. Quiet confidence does not ask to be believed every 5 minutes. And that leads to one of the greatest misconceptions about wealth. People think the rich spend boldly all the time. In reality, many financially strong people spend very selectively. They know exactly where appearance matters and where it does not. They understand that certain environments require polish, but polish is not the same as performance addiction. They invest in quality where quality creates utility, health, efficiency, time, trust, or access. But they are not emotionally owned by the need to display it. That distinction matters. One person uses luxury as a tool. The other uses luxury as emotional oxygen. Same object. Very different power dynamic. Think about the difference between someone who buys a well-made coat because it lasts, fits perfectly, and works across 10 contexts, and someone who buys a highly visible label because they need strangers to decode their value correctly. From a distance, both may look refined. But financially, psychologically, strategically, they are not doing the same thing. One decision comes from alignment. The other comes from hunger. One is about function wrapped in taste. The other is about identity wrapped in expense. And when you scale that difference across years, it changes everything. Because wealth is not built through single dramatic moments. It is built through repeated patterns of allocation. This is where the weak but polished life begins to reveal itself. It usually has 5 symptoms. First, income rises but stress remains high. Second, the person looks more successful than they feel. Third, there is constant pressure to maintain a visual standard. Fourth, there is very little room for error, experimentation, or rest. And fifth, net worth grows slowly, if at all, despite strong visible consumption. That is the real warning sign. If your image is upgrading faster than your balance sheet, something is off. Because appearance can rise in a weekend. Position takes longer. And if you reverse that order, you may spend years looking elevated while remaining structurally exposed. The strongest financial move after an income increase is usually not a lifestyle upgrade. It is a position upgrade. That might mean killing bad debt, building cash reserves, investing in productive tools, buying time back, increasing your skill leverage, starting a side asset, accumulating ownership, getting closer to capital. These moves are less glamorous in the short term, but they change the architecture of your life. They reduce fragility. They increase agency. They make future decisions cleaner. Most people miss this moment because the first visible reward feels more urgent than the invisible foundation. But the people who quietly pull ahead usually do the opposite. They let the system upgrade first. The lifestyle can wait. There is a reason for that patience. When you build structure first, later luxuries become lighter, easier, cleaner, less emotionally charged. A trip feels better when it is not secretly a compensation ritual. A beautiful home feels better when it does not threaten your flexibility. A good dinner tastes different when it is not funded by avoidance. Luxury becomes more elegant when it is supported by strength. Without that strength, even beautiful things can feel vaguely anxious. You may not say it out loud, but your body notices. It notices when every indulgence has a shadow attached to it. Looking rich also weakens people because it teaches them to allocate money according to social visibility rather than real value creation. That habit spreads quickly. Once you begin spending based on what can be seen, your perception of importance becomes distorted. You may underinvest in things that change your life quietly and overinvest in things that produce immediate recognition. A better mattress gets ignored while designer accessories get justified. Skill development feels expensive while a luxury weekend seems reasonable. Therapy feels optional, but bottle service somehow feels like celebration. The logic becomes aesthetic instead of strategic. Beautiful on the surface, expensive underneath, empty at the center. That is how people end up with branded lives and unbranded problems. The clothes improve. The fear does not. The apartment improves. The dependency does not. The vacations improve. The confusion does not. The social image improves. The financial literacy does not. And because the image gets smoother, it becomes easier to postpone the harder questions. Am I actually building anything that outlives my effort? Am I becoming more free or just more decorated? If my income stopped for 6 months, would my life still feel elegant, or would the whole performance collapse under its own weight? Those are uncomfortable questions, but financially mature people ask them anyway. Because maturity means preferring truth over soothing narratives. And the truth is this: many people do not actually want wealth at first. They want the feeling associated with wealth. They want ease, admiration, control, relief, exclusivity, beauty, respect. That is understandable. But if you chase the feeling directly through consumption, you often get the symbol without the substance. Wealth is different. Wealth is slower, less photogenic, more disciplined. It asks you to delay certain signals so you can build real capacity. And that delay is where most people lose patience. The irony is almost cruel. The more eager someone is to look successful early, the harder they often make it to become truly strong later. Because early overconsumption raises the lifestyle floor. Once the floor rises, every future move becomes heavier. It takes more income to feel stable, more income to feel impressive, more income to feel safe. The target keeps moving, but the sense of arrival never really lands. That is one reason financially weak people can appear busy, polished, and ambitious while remaining stuck for years. Their earnings increase, but so does the weight they carry. They are climbing with decorative armor. This is why one of the smartest things you can do is redefine what impresses you. If visible spending still hypnotizes you, you will keep making expensive mistakes. But when your taste matures, different things begin to look beautiful. Clean balance sheets look beautiful. Negotiating power looks beautiful. Time ownership looks beautiful. A business with margin looks beautiful. Skill stacks look beautiful. Controlled expenses look beautiful. Equity looks beautiful. The ability to leave a bad environment without panic looks beautiful. That is when your financial life starts becoming elegant in a deeper way. Not because it photographs well, but because it holds under pressure. There is another layer here that is more social than financial. Looking rich often teaches you to perform upward rather than grow upward. You start learning the aesthetics of success before the mechanics of success. The walk, the objects, the vocabulary, the scenery. But if the mechanics are weak, the performance becomes exhausting to maintain. It is like learning how to stage a castle without learning how to own the land beneath it. And eventually the difference shows. Performance can take you into the room once. Structure determines whether you belong there next year. That is why sophisticated people care less about first impressions than unstable people do. They know endurance reveals more than shine. So what should you do instead? Start by separating private strength from public display. Build the private strength first. Make that your religion for a while. Track net worth, not just income. Lower the need for visible proof. Buy fewer things that speak loudly and more things that work deeply. Increase liquidity. Invest in leverage. Build skills that travel. Choose environments that sharpen you. Take asymmetric risks where the downside is tolerable and the upside expands your life. Learn the difference between a reward and a retreat from insecurity. Those distinctions sound subtle, but over time they create entirely different destinies. It is also worth understanding that true status rarely screams because it does not need immediate validation. Real status is often conveyed through coherence. The way someone speaks, the way they choose, the way they do not rush, the way they treat time, the way they decline what does not fit, the way quality appears in quiet details rather than obvious logos. Financially weak people often chase recognizable prestige because recognizable prestige is easy to outsource. But deep credibility cannot be purchased that way. It is built through taste, consistency, restraint, exposure, and earned self-trust. In other words, through a life that has been structured, not just styled. None of this means you must live like a monk or reject beauty until you are 70 years old. That is not the lesson. The lesson is sequencing. Structure before theater. Position before performance. Ownership before applause. There is nothing wrong with enjoying refinement. The issue is using refinement as a substitute for progress. If you can afford something cleanly, intelligently, and without weakening your future, enjoy it. But if the purchase mainly serves to reassure you that you matter, pause. That pause alone can save you years of financial drift. Because not every desire is a strategy. Some desires are just insecurity wearing better clothes. The strongest people understand something most of the world misses. Looking rich is a signal. Being strong is a system. Signals can be copied. Systems must be built. Signals attract attention. Systems create freedom. Signals are judged by strangers. Systems protect your family. Signals are immediate. Systems compound. So if you are serious about wealth, ask yourself a better question. Not, how can I look like I am winning? Ask, what would make me unshakable? What would make my life cleaner, calmer, more sovereign, more resilient? What would still matter if no one clapped, no one noticed, and no one knew what it cost to build? That is where the real shift happens. You stop spending to be interpreted correctly by the crowd. You start building to become independent from the crowd. And once that shift takes place, your relationship with money becomes quieter, sharper, and far more powerful. You no longer need every purchase to tell a story. You let your choices become more selective, more intentional, more aligned with long-term position. The result is subtle but undeniable. Less noise, less pressure, less fragility, more patience, more assets, more room, more control. Ironically, that is also when your presence starts to feel more expensive in the right way. Because people can sense when someone is no longer trying to borrow status from objects. In the end, looking rich keeps you financially weak because it encourages you to spend on evidence instead of architecture. It seduces you into choosing appearances that can be seen over structures that can be trusted. It rewards urgency, vanity, and comparison while quietly punishing patience, ownership, and restraint. But once you see that pattern clearly, you can stop feeding it. You can let the insecure version of ambition die. You can stop building a life around witnesses. And you can start building one around leverage, freedom, and silent power. Because the goal was never to look expensive. The goal was to become difficult to diminish. Don't just look successful. Become difficult to diminish. Subscribe for more videos on strategic wealth, elite behavior, and quiet power.